meeting back to order and turn it back over to Diane to give us some more stats and good info. So Diane, thanks.
Thank you both, and it was nice to have a break. Got my voice all ready to go. Linda, that's look. Oh, there we go. There's a full screen. Thank you. I did put in the chat a link to a USDA. They do a every 2-week report on retail prices. It's only down to the granularity of the Northeast, so not Vermont, but you can take a look at that. It does show retail prices for a variety of dairy products as well as organic dairy products for the Northeast. So when you have time, you can go have a look at that. But we're now going to switch gears into the dairy margin coverage program. So that's been around since 2019 under that specific name. So here are the usage stats, and you can see I got a blank down there on premium payments. I requested that information from USDA. You can do a lot online of things like how many were enrolled and what the payments were and what the total payments, but then they do not provide online what the premium payments are. So I have a request into our state USDA for that information. They provided it for 2022 earlier in the year when we were working on this program and getting things, the reimbursement program, getting it off the ground. So I'm sorry that I don't have those premium payments for the other months. I hope to get them soon and I will get them over to you, but that's what I have at this time. So enrollment has been up and down on the dairy margin coverage program. 2019, 585 farms, 129 farms in 2020, 483 in 2021, and 429 in 2022. So up and down on that enrollment. Enrollment typically happens the December before the year. So December 2018, people would have been signing up for 2019. USDA has adjusted those sign-up periods in the past. The one for 2022 started in December and went all the way through February, but most times it's the end of the year. Excuse me, it starts in October through December. Pardon me. USDA has extended it beyond December a few times. So that it's up to them to do that. And so it's gone back and forth. So the sign up for 2022 ended in February of 2022, but not before the BA passed, the Budget Adjustment Act. So the program that you put in place, it was kind of a hemming and hawing of telling farmers that what was coming, but it wasn't finished yet. So it's always a little difficult to go out there and say, yeah, you should sign up, you should spend this money because the state's going to reimburse when it wasn't signed off yet. So timing was a bit of a concern there. The other thing about 2022, there have been no payments yet for this program. There is possibility always that the end of the year there could be payments, but unknown at this point. And so there were payments in the past. As you can see, 2019, 10 million in payments came back to Vermont. 2020, much smaller number of people enrolled, only 2 million. And then in 2021, 28 million back to our state. So it does, it does certainly add money. It would be very interesting, as always, to see those premium amounts of what farmers paid versus what they got back. So I will endeavor to get those to you, but USDA has not provided them to me yet, so I don't have them.
And before we switch, can I just ask you a couple questions? So in the enrolled operations for 2022, there's 429, and the commercial dairy was 541.
Correct.
So is that an apples to apples 429 of 541? Is that?
Yes, USDA does their own comparison on the percentage. If you go on their webpage about dairy margin coverage and look at this data, so their numbers are not as current as the ones from the dairy division. So that would be the percentage 429 out of 541. You could do that, but USDA would give you a different percentage on their website because they use a different farm number. Okay,
well, with that, that's fine. But and then the premiums were paid. The state paid the premiums for those 429 operations. Is that?
We have not paid a dime yet, but we'll talk about that.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yep, And that's probably the next slide, Linda. Okay, so the Dairy Risk Management Assistance Program is the title you gave this in statute. And thank you to the legislature for this. You utilized ARPA funding. ARPA funding is the gift that keeps on giving. There are more strings on this than a tennis net, and it's not easy and it's not fast. So you have to bear with all of this ARPA funding because it is slow as molasses. So we did our questionnaire and how the funds were going to be used. We got that approved. We got approved the use and the application form. We got that approved. We just got our appropriation for this money this week to be able to spend any of it. So it is a process beyond belief. The one thing that we're very excited about that we got permission for was the farmers having to have a DUNS number. Now they've changed the name of that to a UEI, Universal, whatever that stands for, sorry. But there is a backlog across the United States of people applying for these UEI numbers. It is taking 6 to 8 months to get one. So we're happy that we got permission to not get one for this, have farmers get one of these numbers for this program. That is not the same for our water quality money or our working lands money. So you're going to have to bear with this. Thank goodness we got until 2026 to spend this because it may take that long for farmers to get a UEI. So just understand that this has got more strings than a tennis net. So here we are. We talked to USDA Farm Services Agency and did a lot of back and forth of how we could share the information. Farmers have to pay for this program by September 1. So coming up fast. They could sign up back through February, they didn't have to pay a nickel. And most didn't. Only about 12% paid up front. So very small number. Now they're all running in quick because they got to pay by September 1. So there wasn't very many people to pay for us anyways, because you made this a reimbursement program. Until they pay, we don't give out any money. So they had to pay USDA first. So we talked with USDA, could we share that information? They pay you, it's all good. You send us the information that they paid in full, and then we can reimburse the farmer. So of course, there's a lot of back and forth on that, of getting the farmers to sign a waiver that it's okay to share the information. So USDA has been beyond helpful. They're doing great. They are helping us so much. But once again, it's a process. We got our first grouping of farms that had paid on August 3rd. That was 85 farms. So we have 344 left. We are going through, we did as simple as we could, 2-page application, name, address, phone number, contact. There's some questions they have to sign off on that come from the federal strings, more strings, tennis net. And so farmers are getting those back. This 85 group of 85 are getting those back to us. Only 19 have been correct so far out of the 85. So simple as we could make it, 2 pages, and still working on it. So we expect to send some money out the door this week. So there were others who got them in that were, 19 applications are correct so far. We're going back and forth on about another 20, trying to get things correct. So even though we tried to make it as simple as we could, it's still, oh, they didn't sign it. Ugh. So we got to send it back. You got to sign it. So just that kind of stuff. Back and forth we go. We expect to make some payments this week. This will be our first payments. So the reasoning behind that, A, not many people had paid in full. B, we had to get our money, the ARPA money. And C, back and forth working with USDA to get this information transfer set up. So things should move forward faster now, but we expect that we will be, that's my next slide, Linda. Maybe I'm talking about stuff that's on the next slide. Here we go. Let's talk about the 85 that we got in. The lowest amount of payment was $744. The highest was the cap of $7,500. This program pays for tier 1 premiums only, and the maximum amount there is 5 million pounds. 15 cents a hundredweight, 5 million pounds. So that's the highest amount that could be reimbursed. The average amount on this number of 85 was $4,036. 23 were at the cap. So the next batch coming in from USDA will be September 5th. And we know that a lot of people are going in and paying, so we expect greater numbers. But we will be managing this program out through late October, because if they don't get things correct to us, they don't always get them correct to USDA. So this is going to be a lot of back and forth, getting things corrected and getting the money out.
So Diane, did 23 of the large farm or medium to large, they've already sent their apps in?
They're
Is
part
that-
of this. They're part of this mix of the 85 that we receive. There are 23 larger farms in there that that insured 5 million pounds of milk under the tier 1. So we're working with their applications too. They aren't getting them right either of what needs to be filled out. So we're working on it. But there's a mix of farm sizes in there for sure.
Diane, there's been quite a bit of discussion going into the Farm Bill about what's going to happen with BMC. And it's been a bit of a challenge, and I don't mean negative at all, but it's been hard to get state numbers. Like you said before, what's on the website's really useful, but there are some things that are missing to try to assess the impact on different states. It would be really helpful going forward. You're going to have the data now for 429 farms. So for example, it'd be really helpful once you have all of them in to be able to process out the number of farms that capped out, and then to get a feel for, so it's the average is a little bit, there's a mean and there's an average. So you're going to have a number of farms that capped out that will obscure a little bit what the other operating farms are. So just a request going forward to think through a little bit how you can use that data to inform, what the farms look like who applied would be useful going forward, not only for the task force, but also for the Farm Bill too.
Yeah, it should. The NASDA, National Association of the State Departments of Agriculture, the recommendation is all the risk management programs continue for dairy. So the dairy margin coverage, the dairy revenue protection, livestock gross margin, that all of those continue is the recommendation. There's also potential for a recommendation to do a dairy margin coverage for organic based on organic cost of feed and organic cost of milk. That one's got some more uphill challenges because the data doesn't exist for some of this. As I showed you, the organic prices, that I collected, the conventional does corn, soy, and alfalfa hay. And so the corn price doesn't exist in USDA for organic cornmeal. So, and the all milk price, specifically farmer paid organic, doesn't exist at this time either within USDA. So those are a couple of hurdles to having a organic specific dairy margin coverage program, but it's being asked for. So we'll see. Go ahead.
The issue with DMC is that the score is going to be the cost in the next Farm Bill is going to be a lot higher than the cost in the previous Farm Bill. And so you have to find the money to make up the difference in the Farm Bill discussion. So how it lands, how that money is landed on farms is going to be a big issue. So to have a better sense of how the money landed on farm sizes here in Vermont, the more, in your term, granular data that we have to understand how did the 5 million cap work, right? Is how many farms capped out versus not capped out, and what's the difference between the two? And then the other issue is the premiums. They're talking about, can there be some additional help in premium cost? And again, to know the premium cost per size of farm, rather than just an average across the group, that would be helpful to know as well.
Well, and really the 5 million cap is a 250 cow farm. So it's not there. Those are MFOs and up, barely an MFO.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So these are not all of our very largest farms capping out for sure. Okay. Linda, the next slide or another question?
Jackie has one.
Didn't we put aside, I'm sorry, and this is, I guess, to Senator Starr too. Didn't we put 2.6 million into that?
Yes. Here's
So
the
there
next
is
slide,
money
Jackie.
going forward. All
Yep,
right.
here we go. Yes, ma'am. So we have the 1.4 million and change of premium dollars. We have the potential to have 1,132,428 left over out of your 2.6 million. I say potential, I mean, farmers have to apply. We're not going to send money to them unless they make the effort. So once again, they got to apply. So will they all apply? Will they all do it? I don't know. I hope so. And we will try to encourage all of them to do so, but that doesn't mean they will. So the expectation, if everybody did, we'd have 1.1 million left over. So what does this mean for FY, or the not fiscal, calendar year 23? So we know that in your statute, it says use it in the following year, the money, if there was money left. So we will do that. We're talking with USDA about how when they make their announcement coming in fall. So usual sign up time is October through December. So this is coming up soon, that we would be right on their heels making this announcement that there's money left, but it will be competitive this time. You also wrote in your statute that it was first come, first serve. This year's not, because we have ample funds. Next year could be much different. And it is a reimbursement program. If you don't pay at all, we can't reimburse you. So that may change how farmers approach next year's sign up. You know, will they be, okay, I'll sign up, I'll pay it in full, and then I'll contact the agency and get a reimbursement. Okay. Or no, I don't have the money right now, I'll wait and see what happens. So the other part of this program is that if there is a payment, if the program pays out because the margin is dropped below 950, that can be taken off their total premium owed. So some farmers bank on that. That's why all the way out to September, they don't have to pay. So they bank on it or hope that, you know, there'll be payouts and you take my premium out of the payout and then I don't owe anything. So that is a possibility as well. Next slide, Linda.
So far, the deadline to sign up for 2023 is December 2020, end of the year. This year, they haven't extended.
I haven't heard anything further on that. No, it's usually sometime in October through the end of December, but I haven't heard a peep on any changes. So this is what our good friends at Agrimark predict the margin for dairy margin coverage to be. So the last few months of this year, so really maybe a payment, probably not for the rest of 2022, but 2023, yeah, there'll be payments. That's the expectation, especially those that are down in the $8 range. That is pretty, those can be a little like more feeling that you better sign up, farmers. It looks like things are iffy. Agrimark sends this prediction out to a lot of people. So if farms are starting to think about this for the coming year, you know, what would I do if I were advising somebody? I'd say I'd sign up at the 950 level and then get it all done and get your information into the state and get reimbursed. Or they may look at it, a farmer may look at that and say, yeah, I'll sign up, but I'm going to wait until September to pay because I'll get a payment in March through August that may reduce what I owe in the premium. So we can't predict what farmers will do, but we'll certainly get the information out that first come, first served, limited money might not cover everybody, as in, you know, we knew it was 1.4 million for this year. Is it, you know, the potential for it to be over the 1.1 million we have left is probably pretty high. Next slide, Linda. All right, so we will certainly get the information out and make sure people understand it's limited. But if we can get the information from USDA early on, as in maybe January, February, unless there's some change in the sign up period, that USDA could tell us that 400 farms signed up, the total premium owed is 1.5 million, and maybe the legislature would consider adjusting the amount available in the program. So it wouldn't be as much of a first come, first serve program, but, you know, people could come to us, we pay out all that we have left of money, and then keep the information for those that didn't get paid because the money ran out, and the legislature adds more money and it starts July 1 and we pay the rest potentially. So certainly willing to provide that information, or USDA would be willing to provide that information. If that were the case, I would assume to potentially add more money if that's what's needed. So
how do you get that out, through AgriView, or do you do direct mailing to all the different farms?
we've hit them in 3 ways. We did AgriView, we did direct email, and then we worked with USDA with their direct mailings. So they went directly to the people that signed up for this current program. So when we go into the next year that we don't know who's going to sign up or not, we'll probably, the potential to do a direct mailing to the dairy farm list is there as well. We could do that as well. But this year we were targeting those who had already signed up and already in the program.
So
So we
they
want-
are getting, the farmers are receiving this information then.
So,
And the
About-
notice period's coming right up, October,
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
coming right up.
It is. It is.
Diane,
Mhm.
do you have statistics on, just to help farmers out, showing sort of for every dollar of premium you buy in, on average, you're getting this much back from the margin coverage. Is there some sort of statistic on that, just to show them that, it's a 1 to 3 or a 1 to 5, whatever it is?
Linda, if you'll back up to that, at least it's one more. Nope, I guess one more. Sorry, Linda. That one. There we are. Okay. So yes, John, I am hoping that USDA provides me with that premium payments for 2019, 20, and 21. And then you could do that. The average, we could do an average premium payment. You could do a total payment was 10 million and you paid in $1 million in premium, then yeah, that's 10 to 1. That's awesome. So we just, that last piece of data, you would have had more columns or more rows in my table. I would have done those kind of averages and such, or payback of the average payment in a premium was this and the average amount back to a farm was that. And then you could hopefully show that it is a 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1 return. But without that premium amount, you can't go much further. So hopeful that they'll provide that soon.
but
Yeah.
you,
Go
pretty
ahead,
easy.
Lori.
Go ahead, John. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, because I would assume some dairy farmers probably think, when the price is 13 or 1500, that the program makes sense, but when it's high, like right now, that they won't get anything, whereas that's not really the case, because it's that production margin.
Yeah, I think there was a really hard lesson learned in 2020. Milk price predictions were, wow, it's going to be an awesome year. And then of course, COVID hit and woo, everything went very badly south. There were other programs that helped farmers in 2020. But dairy margin coverage was not one of them because not many people signed up. And I think that may have been a hard learning time for a lot of people of, they said milk price was going to be great and sign up ended in December and COVID became the big issue in March and prices went all over the place, but mainly down. So those farms who chose not to based on predictions, the world changes. So I think the program, I think the message of reimbursement for calendar year 2023, I think that will be helpful of, okay, prices still sound pretty good, but I can cover this and just, things went south in the past and I just better do this. So hopefully that's because the prediction for 2022 was also that there wasn't going to be any payment. That was way back in December. The prices were going to be strong. There wouldn't be a payment and still had 429 sign up. So I think maybe that being burned, so to speak, in 2020, maybe people are more apt to just take this out as protection and just pay for it. But the reimbursement may encourage more. It's a pretty high percent. I think we're up in the 74% range of people out of the total that sign up. It's pretty strong.
Yep.
It's pretty easy to, if I see and reading the numbers right, in 2021, Vermont farmers the average was $58,000.
Yep.
Well, we know that the most any farmer can pay is what, 7,500, right?
Sure.
In the tier 1, there may be farms in there that have paid in on tier 2. That's not evident. But
Yeah.
yes, the smaller
okay.
farms, sure, it could be very much. And we know our LFO and MFO numbers. So the majority of the rest of the farms, yes, a lot of those were smaller. So that's probably not the worst statement, but it's certainly an estimate. Yes, if
The
they paid in a maximum of 7,500, then yeah, that's not a bad payment.
No, the return's pretty darn good. The gamble is pretty small. And then next year, if we have money left in that, and we can pay, the state will help in paying the premium. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer to sign up.
Yeah, we'll certainly be able to message much more strongly than we could last year that yes, this money exists, but it's first come, first serve as written in the statute, and you need to pay USDA and then do our application. So this is going to be you farmer need to make this choice of when you want to pay USDA, but we cannot reimburse until they've paid USDA.
Yeah.
Linda, if you want to push that back forward, one more. Oh, nope, guess that's it. All right. Other things you want to talk about?
Oh, we're down to questions.
Yep, which you never have any.
Well, we've been doing pretty well as we moved forward. So, it should help when it's fresh in your mind. It's easy to ask a question. Any of the members have specific questions that they'd like to ask Diane on? We got a quiet crew here. Dan?
What would you, given what we're looking as a task force now to be thinking about, what would you suggest for issues of consideration for the task force? You've made a comment before about working, I forget what adjective you used, it was a good one, given the projections in milk price. So that's one thought.
Expeditiously.
So other thoughts that you might have.
There's a lot going on around federal orders right now. Farm Bureau's got a big meeting coming up in October. National Milk Producers Federation they're not sharing yet, but they have a list of recommendations they've been working on for federal order changes. IDFA has a whole report, which they're not very sharing either. These things are happening, but nobody wants to share. So Farm Bureau's activity, I think, will be very interesting. American Farm Bureau in Kansas City coming up in October, of what farmers, industry folks, I think industry's invited. Jackie may know more, but I think there's interest. There was a rumble from the Northeast delegation around a letter to the AGO, federal AGO stands for, GAO, thank you, sorry. General Accounting Office there. Thank you, Dan. To look into federal orders and are they really doing what they should, et cetera. But I haven't seen that come to pass. Gillibrand was leading something of pushing USDA federal milk marketing orders to hold hearings. So they've done that a couple times and just, nothing seems to go very far. So there seems to be some groundswell. There's also a great concern of trying to do it in the Farm Bill, because that's where we got the class 1 mover, and that was not good and still not good. So that change was not great.
We should hear from have some testimony about what's being considered for the Farm Bill.
I don't think that would hurt. I think what comes back from this American Farm Bureau would be pretty interesting as well. So things are coming.
National Milk talking about a petition for a federal order hearing. So we have to hear about both where the hearing process might be headed, as well as the Farm Bill. Okay.
Well, and what issue National Milk is proposing to have a hearing on.
Sure.
I haven't heard that one yet either. So, but there's been a lot of work. There's been a lot of meetings for National Milk, and IDFA did a report, although I guess you got to be a member to get a copy. So haven't gotten one yet. And the Farm Bill, NASDA, also there's general policy in NASDA to keep an eye on what's happening with all the dairy stuff, but it's really hard, as you know, across the country to take one position on dairy and with a national level group. So there is not one specific position on federal orders coming out of the NASDA group.
Diane, did you want, National Milk has had webinars and they did put out the study groups that they had been working with, with some ideas that they were looking at. I thought that was pretty interesting. And Luke Hott from Agrimark said he was watching. I don't know whether it was National Milk or another group, but there have been a lot of webinars. The meeting in Kansas City is the second week in October, where American Farm Bureau is asking farmers and dairy leaders to come in on the request of Secretary Vilsack. And we're trying to find a couple people from Vermont to go. So if you have any thoughts on anybody that would have a background, that's the other issue. You have to have a background on the marketing orders, because you just can't go in there blind and not know what they're talking about. So that should be interesting. And I would be glad to report on that after that meeting happens.
So we're down a couple of thousand cows according to their report, right, Diane?
Oh, hold on a minute. I'll open that. And I don't know if I'll share it on the screen because that seems to be problematic, but let me see if I can find my, Vermont dairy data. Hold on a minute.
I think you said 118,000, but I think it's also because with that base excess, nobody can buy cows in unless you've got more base to fill. So there wouldn't be a way for you to expand unless your co-op says you can buy base to do it.
You can't just have to.
Yeah,
You got to buy it if it's available. Yeah.
It's your,
Or you lose money on the other end.
wow.
Which
They
Supposedly.
don't really know. And that's
All right. Can you see that?
you can see it.
Not too
barely.
small?
It's
All right. Hold on.
It's
All right.
expeditious. There you go. There you go.
Expeditious. Well, I can't see what I want. Oh, you all people are in the way. Hold on. There we are. All right. So cow numbers is here. So the average for the second quarter of 117,677. So actually it went down lower than we were rolling along around the 119,000, but now we've dropped below. I think that to pull it down to 117,000, we must have dropped more like 116 to pull it down. So it's dropping. Cow numbers are dropping.
Yeah, they're down a couple of thousand. I think I kind of.
Yep.
And the number of farms are down.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of money, well, an estimate is at $6.15 or somewhere in that neighborhood, short of covering the costs. So it looks like, and it's both dairy, conventional as well as organic, they're down.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're ever going to expect our dairy community to belly up to the table and fix like water quality, air quality, and all these other things that we're looking at and hoping that the farm community could assist in environmental issues, we're going to need, the farmers are going to need quite a lot more money to be able to pitch in and willingly support covering these costs. So I think we've got our work pretty well cut out for us and to move forward.
Well, I think we can also go back and talk about, with figures probably from Diane and the agency, how much money they've already put into these environmental issues to help, and that's always seems to be the catch up, and we're always, somebody will say, well, this farm's doing this, but we never talk about how much that farm has already invested based on what they have the ability to do.
Yeah.
So that's always got to be, we got to be a little more proactive in that, I think, going forward.
Other questions from members? Gil, did you have any
John's got a
questions?
question, Bobby.
John's got his hand up.
John?
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. Diane, where's Vermont with its beef industry? Is it gaining steadily or is it just up and down? I'm wondering how much, some dairy farms might transition to beef, or even, I'm trying to think of apples to apples, but the lifetime of a dairy cow produces how much, for a dairy farmer versus raising a beef. If sort of like a maple tree, whether it's for logs or for maple syrup. I mean, those sort of numbers I'd be interested to see, but whether Vermont has the same number of cattle that we did 10 years ago, or whether we are losing cattle year after year.
I can take a look at that. We only can base it off USDA census data because we don't have any license or registration requirements for those who raise beef. So yeah, we don't collect any data on them. Some come forward and tell us things, but not many. So we can get some data from the census. I think there was a presentation I did at one point where the number of farms that have cows for beef, it gets that specific in the census, has increased. But the last census was 2017. 2022 is another collection year, but it takes them almost 2 years to get the data out. So, it's not very up-to-date data, but I can look for that and I'll get that over to you. But yeah, we are, I think anecdotally, I would say we have more people raising beef, but the size and scope of that, the beef cattle is quicker to market, but not as continuous a paycheck. So the dairy, even though it's a milk check and all the things that come with milk price, but it comes twice a month without fail. And beef is only when you sell one. So the income streams are very different for sure.
Plus, we still have the infrastructure issue with the slaughterhouse.
Yes.
I mean, we
Yeah.
can't put more beef through unless we fix that.
Yeah, we've got one opening up soon in the Champlain Islands, which may help a little. And they plan on doing more of the, they always need something that's continuous, but doing a few more of the, backyard folk that need a space, trying to pick up some of that slack.
What about, I think it's Ferrisburg, did they get their addition done or going or?
I don't know. I can find out, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Andrea, did you have any questions of your first meeting?
No, I don't. I'm just listening and absorbing.
Yeah, plenty to absorb, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Michael, when we were talking, we brought up a little bit about the CDL licensing thing. And do you recall if we did anything on that through the labor bill or workforce development bill to help cover the cost on that?
We didn't really get into it. We had Dan came in and went over the report with the committee, but through the workforce development bill, we took a different direction. We really concentrated hard on the healthcare industry this past year. So it's something that I think we need to look at more this coming session. I have a meeting next week with Commissioner Harrington. So this is something that I'll chat with him about, and also the apprenticeship for farming to see what we might be able to do in that realm as well. So yeah, we heard about it, we listened to it, we understand the issues. And I think it's not just farming, or it's CDL drivers throughout all industries in Vermont, probably through the country too. So there is a program that goes on, that is ongoing, but whether or not we can expand that or not, I don't know. We need to really delve into that even more.
I know if you're unemployed and the state has a system where you can sign up to go for CDL license and they'll compensate some toward the cost. But the big issue with getting more drivers to haul milk is even if you go to school, you usually can't buy insurance on a brand new driver. You have to have one with 2 or 3 years of experience, or the insurance companies won't take you. So there's, a lot of work there that left to be done.
It's kind of a catch-22. So how do you get experience if you can't drive? So, that might be it.
Little
But-
truck.
So
Little trucks.
that may be a discussion with DFR as well.
I have a question for Andrea. The Public Utilities Commission, that's where the electric utilities would be filing rate increases is through you, and then you take testimony and you look at their justification for raising the rates. So I guess going forward, you can't go backwards on it. Some of the smaller co-ops like Washington Electric, and I say that in particular because my husband used to be on the board and I've heard the discussions. We've always had challenges when, we've always said farms are businesses, but then when you go and increase electric rates on businesses that don't have the ability to increase what they get paid for their product. In other words, like Michael, if you increase electric rate on a store, they have the ability sometimes to raise prices on their items. But if you increase electric rates on a farm, they do not have that ability. So just as a cautionary tale, it's something that needs to be looked at. And I don't know how you pull them out. I know that there have been discussions on how you do that. And I don't want to say that farms aren't businesses, but in things like this, it becomes a different type of business because they don't have the ability to ask for more money for their milk just because the electric rates have gone up because of their usage. And they use a lot of electricity. So
Right.
Just put that out there for you.
Well, they haven't even got electric tractors yet, right? Until they get those.
Yeah.
Oh, I got things to say about that.
Oh, gosh.
We also need to start thinking about making farms energy independent. Just think about when the power goes off now and they pull out the tractor and they put the generator on it and they, rev up that tractor to do the RPMs to generate electricity. So if everything is electric on the farm and the power goes out, what are these farmers going to do?
Yeah.
The electric tractor doesn't have enough juice. Everything can run out of its electricity. So we really need to get farmers starting to generate their own on the farm. The other side of that coin, if you're the last one who needs diesel in the state, everybody else is doing electric vehicles. And so who needs diesel? The semis and the farms. And then if the semis switch because the farms are having trouble making investments and the farms are the last people that need diesel fuel, do you think they're going to get deliveries? What do you think the price is going to be? It's really can be very limiting. And so we need to start thinking ahead further for this of really, how do we make our farms more energy independent of generating their own? Because right now, all the big digesters and big solar installations all go directly to the grid, even if they're located on farms. The farm doesn't draw power from that. So does that need to change or not? So all these things to think about, but you let me have a little last soapbox, and that's the one I'm on right now, is that we got to be thinking about this for the future, because we're going to have farms that'll be the last ones to give up their diesel tractor, and where in the world are they going to get diesel? Because nobody else needs it. So
And
that's
not
just
only-
something to think about.
I'll just step on your soapbox for a minute too, Diane. I've always, I wish that Efficiency Vermont would start thinking outside of the box in regards to these farms too, because many of them pay a lot of money that go into that fund, and many of them are maxed out with the things that are currently available through Efficiency Vermont. And I don't think that there has been much thought put into what is next for the farms. And Diane makes a really good point in that, if everybody's going to go electric and everything, how is that even possible on a farm? And there should be a little more discussion and a little more thought put into, not just e-cars, but as Diane said, e-tractors and everything else that you need on a farm. But how is that going to be paid for? Farms are paying in a lot of money into that fund, and I don't think they're getting their fair share out of it. So this is something I've been talking about for a couple of years, and we get, yeah. But,
and also the issue of 3-phase power lines into rural communities. That's a huge issue, because a lot of these chargers that the farms may need would need 3-phase, and it doesn't exist. And right now a farmer has to pay to get a 3-phase line into their farm. So
it's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Any other questions for Diane? John?
Diane, you probably know this, or Michael O'Grady might. Besides the farm bill, which I guess is the window is open now, but soon is going to close on that. When is the next sort of federal nutritional? I don't know if it's a bill or a revisit, because that keeps coming up in our committee as far as getting, say, changing what milk can be in schools. So if we could get whole milk, or at least the Fed said it's okay to have whole milk in schools, and it's okay to have your local whole milk in schools. I think that's coming up, and we have no real power over it, but I guess we can lobby.
It's in the farm bill is giant, and it includes the nutrition programs as well. So it's all the same big old farm bill. So it's coming.
So
that opportunity.
That's in the farm bill?
All the nutrition programs are in the farm, school lunch, et cetera. They're all in the farm bill.
Oh, wow.
It's giant. It's more nutrition than it is agriculture, because that was the goal, was to have those two together. So the folks that live in the cities would vote for it, along with the folks that live in the country. That was somebody was smart a lot of years ago to combine those things in one big bill that would garner support from multiple constituencies. So when they talk about separating those two, the answer should be no, because then it would be very hard to get votes for that ag community out there in the bushes that only has not many representatives. But New York City and the population centers have a lot of representatives, and they need the nutrition programs. So in one giant farm bill is how, in the past, they've gotten votes for it.
Timing wise, John, the pre-hearing process has been going on starting in the spring. The formal hearing in the House and Senate Ag Committees on the Farm Bill start up in January, February. So next year is a Farm Bill year. And certainly nutrition programs are front and center as part of that process starting January, February.
A question I have on that, Dan, is how do you know who's going to be on the Ag Committee next year? Must be some of those senators are up for re-election, and some are not running, and I don't, is Leahy's still on the Ag Committee, isn't he?
Yes.
So would Welch automatically take his place, or?
No.
Automatically, no. It's really his decision whether to be on the Ag Committee.
But is it Crapo from New Jersey? Is he a senator or a House? He's the chair of one of those committees. And he is not ag friendly. I don't know how he got chair. Yeah, I think it's New Jersey. So he's on it.
If any of you get to a public forum where Welch is, it might be worth our time to ask him if he's thinking about being on the Ag Committee. Not that being brand new, it probably won't make a lot of difference, but it might make some difference.
So Senator Stabenow from Michigan is chair. Senator Bozeman from Arkansas is the ranking Republican, and he was up for re-election. He is up for re-election, and they held a pre-farm bill hearing in Michigan and Arkansas, but they waited on the Arkansas hearing until Senator Bozeman after the primary. But so there was some issue whether he would survive the primary in Arkansas, but he did. So it's likely those two are coming back as the senior members of the Ag Committee. Senator Gillibrand is the is the chair of the subcommittee on dairy and livestock that has jurisdiction over milk pricing. And she's from New York. Senator Hyde Smith from Mississippi is the ranking Republican on that subcommittee. She was a commissioner of agriculture and has very strong feelings about dairy. Whether she will move on, it's similar to here. You reconstitute the committees with each new Congress. So, the leadership isn't the senator. I doubt Senator Stabenow and Senator Bozeman are going anywhere, but whether Senator Gillibrand likely will stay, but hard to know until they reconstitute. And with Senator Leahy, is always the ranking on every committee, so he would always be on conference. That's what we're going to lose. Is Senator Leahy won't be on the conference going forward. Vermont won't have, even if Senator Welch gets on the committee, he wouldn't be in conference. So that's really the big change.
That's where the action
big-
really takes
big
place.
change. Yeah,
Just like here.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just like here, but even more so.
Yeah, I know. Bigger stakes.
Well, less committee process. They do.
They just do their thing.
It's more top heavy this year.
So, any final questions for Diane? If not, thanks a lot, Diane, for the info. And for those of you that want copies of Diane's presentation, Linda will pull up some paper copies, so we got them around, unless you want them on your iPads. If you want one written, just let us know, and Linda can,
I just sent everyone Diane's PowerPoint
yeah.
by
That's
email.
great.
It's also on the webpage, but I just sent it to you by email.
So it's all on your email, so that's good.
Yeah, so I'll follow up with those premium amounts, and Representative O'Brien, I'll get you the beef numbers historically.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Diane, for
Thank
all
you.
your research and your work, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you very much. Glad to help.
Thanks,
Have a good
Diane.
afternoon. Bye now.
Thank you, Diane.
So the next part of, we gotta get wrapped up here in 15, 20 minutes. But we were gonna try to talk a little bit about what we're going to plan for our next meeting and who we wanted to get in. And Dan and I have chatted a little bit about that. So did you want to explain
Sure, I'd be happy to if you want.
what we're thinking for the future, and whatever you folks
Yeah.
think that we should have at our next meeting or future meetings be very helpful.
Yeah, and I think that's the two parts, is one, to sort of begin to plan out what the meetings look like, but to get your input for that process as well going forward. So I think the triggering event in this is we, as Mike said, we did get the task force asked for a legal opinion on the legality of the state doing price regulation. It's if it's not legal, no point going forward. On the other hand, what exactly we might think about doing, we haven't yet decided. So there's an ongoing process to figure out as the task force what approach to take. But in general, the general idea of the state being able to regulate the milk that is produced in raw form and then used in either processing or manufacturing by Vermont firms to make products that are sold out of state. I mean, that's where the industry is at this point, in large part. The law professor that we retained concluded that it is legal for the state to do that. So we have a pretty strong starting benchmark that in concept, the industry that is operating in the state of Vermont is subject to the state's regulatory authority as a matter of constitutional law. You'll for sure, as Bobby said, or Mike said right at the beginning, we'll hear from the law professor in one of our meetings. So, but that's the starting point. And then from that starting point, Bobby, Mike, and I kind of talked through what are the pieces that the task force needs to assemble if you're going to think about doing a price regulation. So there's the piece about how dairy farmers get paid. How would, under the current federal system, there's the starting point of the federally regulated blend price. And then as we had testimony from Maine, on top of that is the overorder price. So that would be the basic structure. So we thought it would be helpful to bring in a dairy economist, and Dr. Chris Wolf from Cornell is willing to do that and come and give us a colloquium on milk prices. So that's one piece. Then another piece is what does the industry now look like in more detail to figure out how the regulation might be structured. And so we have this, pretty much the data that we need from last year on where the milk is used in state for the most part. The market administrator really gave us some pretty good fundamental data on what the industry looks like now. And then we heard from DFA and Agrimark and the firm. So putting that together, that would be another building block for is to assemble that data and discuss that. And then the third, obviously, is to hear from the law professor and get his more detailed description of where he came from in deciding that it was legal to do this. As Mike said, he's kind of the up and coming expert in the field. We found him through the professor that we used on the dairy compact back in the dark ages, who's now semi-retired, and his recommendation was this professor who's up and coming in the field. So he's really well positioned and he's very enthusiastic and personable. And I think he turned out to be a very good pick, and you'll hear from him. So those would be 3 meetings. Then in the discussion, as Bobby said, that the sort of developing issue, and Diane spoke to it this morning, is looking to dairy farming in the future. You have to think about all the requirements for compliance with water quality and soil health and developing climate health and energy. And so to think about how those costs enter into this discussion. From not to get out ahead of the discussion, Bobby and I have talked about, if you think about it, you have a labor cost, and that's in the USDA calculation of cost of production. So, and electricity cost, as you were saying, Jackie, is a cost of production. But so far, we've included compliance costs for environmental requirements as external to the cost of production. So whether the time has really come to internalize those costs into the cost of producing milk, we would put that also as a building block of needed building block for going forward with a price regulation. So that sketches out three to 4 meetings, and so we're interested in your thoughts in response to that and additional thoughts. And I think Diane put a good one on the table that we need to hear. We're in the middle of what's going to happen with at the federal level. It's a farm bill year. I have to say, I'm working on the farm bill. I don't anticipate a fundamental restructure of federal order pricing. Kind of do that every 20 years Congress does get in and restructure federal order program, and haven't done anything in 20 years. There's only been 1 hearing, so the time is right for something fundamental. But so it's a bit of a cautionary, but for sure we need to hear from both National Milk is clearly gunning for a hearing. So we need to hear about what they're thinking and federal order. So I would add that to
the list of,
Yeah.
you know, down the road meetings. So, but I would think that we would want to hear from our professor and get a report back from those folks first, the legality of what we're, I mean, I think we should all hear that. He did send a report, but we should have him maybe at our next meeting.
Bobby, I was just wondering when I was listening to Dan talk to hear the legal opinion, but should we have a combined meeting with the Milk Commission at that time, since they do have the ability to make an overorder? I mean, just keep him in the, well, I know he is, but
Well, I would think we ought to hear
hear it
what
first. Well,
they say.
maybe we
and
can
then
invite them.
If we decide as a group to pursue that line of thinking, then we should get somebody from them or invite them to plug in or whatever.
I think I understand what you're saying, but if they're going to present their legal opinion of what the Milk Commission might already be able to do, it might be easier just to invite them, not to have a joint meeting, but to invite them to Zoom into our next meeting as guests so that they have the opportunity to hear the presentation.
Well, if nothing else, also in the event that there's commentary from them that's either pro or con or supportive or non-supportive, to be able to hear it at the same time, probably be useful to us.
So Anson's the chair. So
Diane's
she's the,
no, Anson's the secretary.
but
Yeah.
she always attends. I
Yeah.
think she's his designee. I mean, there's what, are there 8 of them maybe? I agree, Senator. If they're here, when they hear it at the beginning, rather than, okay, we're going to do this and it's up to them to do it, so let's pull them in and try to explain, it would just maybe grease the skids a little earlier.
My only qualification would be, I don't think it's necessarily only would be up to them. You know, there's a possibility of restructuring.
Well, and that's my other question, is that currently it is up to them. So if you're looking for a legislative answer, probably better to have them in the mix right at the beginning, as opposed to saying, oh, by the way, we're going to do this
And it probably
anyhow.
will be faster also
Yeah, I think so.
than having to do this multiple times.
hear it all at once, or we
Yeah.
all hear the same story.
And they may not be interested, but I think we should make the offer. I mean, we're all trying to do the same thing, and they would be the other people that could help it to happen. So just,
If
I think
they,
the last time they met was 3 years ago to
It's been a
discuss
while.
supply management. So,
Yeah.
So we can
we
see
can
what.
get them
what
all
the
back
thinking
together.
is. So Bobby, I guess the question is, want to hear from the lawyer first about generally what's doable, or do you want to hear about the pieces of it and then hear from the lawyer once we have a sense of what might be possible?
well, it might be better to hear from him before. I mean, we should hear from the professor though first.
I would agree.
And then we'll get questions, and then we could hear from the lawyer after that. If we have questions that
So
we
hear
have,
from him before and after. Okay. He's amenable, so.
yeah.
Okay.
So would that be amenable to all you guys, the members? Well, I pretty much take up our second meeting on it.
We're hearing from both of them, the lawyer and the professor, or just the professor, or both?
Yeah,
Both, yeah, I think that would.
I think that could probably work.
Pretty
Okay.
much.
That's a
And,
chock
yeah,
full
with our
meeting.
discussion,
That's a chock full meeting, Mr. Starbuck. Yeah.
Michael
You can do it.
Grady, you have any comments on the way we just talked about setting the next meeting up?
No, I think that makes sense, but with regard to Dan's point about incorporating environmental cost into the cost of milk, the price paid, that was that's partly a recommendation of the climate action plan, but then the ecosystems benefits group that Ryan Patch has been running, they're supposed to report back to the General Assembly this year with their recommendations. And I think that's going to be, I don't know if they're going to be recommending incorporating it into the price of milk, but they're going to be recommending some sort of assistance for environmental action. So you might want to talk to them at a future date as well.
Oh, that lady that we had last year, I think we talked, Abby,
Abby, of course, yeah.
I think, you know, she tells it about the way it is. And, you know, she might be good to have back once we decide where we're going, have her back to hear her take on all this.
Well, I think the sooner we can come up with an idea of what the environmental or climate costs on a farm in Vermont is going to be, the better, because that is going to be the discussion. And we need to have that so people can start understanding it isn't just free on the farm. And it's going to be pricey, and they're going to have to, that it's going to have to be part of the discussion. Even if nobody else in the country has that figure, we've got to have it here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, and somewhere you raised the issue of Efficiency Vermont. And it's like with any organization, first you got to get their attention. And there may be some point at a meeting in which we want to invite Efficiency Vermont to come in to talk about the issues looking forward to how Efficiency Vermont can be of use to the farming community, to agriculture, and to get them involved earlier rather than later.
I'd love
We
that.
dump a lot of money into that.
And the question, of course,
So do
is
the
what are
farmers.
farmers getting out of Efficiency Vermont? You know, it's not that you better light bulbs in barns.
Well, there is a certain, you know, there are only so many programs that they look at in whatever businesses. And that's a challenge because they haven't, I shouldn't say they haven't. I'm not aware that they have reviewed what they've been doing for agriculture at
And
all.
well, I don't know anybody's asked them,
Well,
you know, at least formally
yeah,
in terms of
that's true.
a legislative group. But I think it's
That's
appropriate
true.
that we do that.
Not know why, for sure. Not know why.
Yeah, it's got to be part of the. Yeah. Anything else from you members that are on Zoom? John?
Not to throw a big detour at us, and I think I would even be happy doing this offline, but looking back at the task force, I feel that, and Dan, you might know this, if there's an economist, sort of a dairy economist who understands sort of globally what's going on in dairy, because the more I think about this, you know, you take a 200 cow dairy, whether it's in Vermont or the Maritimes or France or England, Netherlands, you know, that the inputs are almost all identical. And it's as soon as that milk leaves the farm, you know, that's when all the economics change. And I would love to understand that more of, you know, why in certain places it seems dairy farms, because of these maybe federal, maybe regional programs, are doing so much better than Vermont. And I don't think we need to get into the weeds in it here, but I would love to have, you know, a spreadsheet showing why a dairy farm in, you know, a region in France is making money and why it's not happening here. I mean, I understand why it's not happening here, but just what those different sort of economic paradigms are that make, you know, milk coming out of a cow is so different around the world.
We can certainly, there's different folks that study different issues. The comparative profitability of a dairy farm in France compared to one in the States, that one's a little bit obscure, John, but I can
subsidies.
Look around, and I understand what you're saying. So we, you know, putting Vermont into the bigger picture and seeing how it fits, right? I think we can get some information on that.
Well, I think that in a way, what we're getting at here, though, is a really critical question. Is are there some places that are doing some of the things that we do so much better that it's much more economical and profitable for them to do it, and we just don't know it at this point. We assume we know it, but we don't because we haven't systematically looked at it. I looked at the charts and the numbers that were provided here today. The thing that struck me out of everything I heard today was the cost of feed, a purchased feed. It went up by 31% from 2017 to 2022. But in the past year, it went up by almost 24%, 25%. Now, I heard the answer of soybeans, and I'm aware of soybean pricing and so on and so forth. Is anybody using anything else? I know people are looking at using other alternatives for protein, for example.
But you can't extrapolate from that one soybean that's just in the organic.
That may be.
National market. That's not a.
But what I saw, though, is that the cost of feed overall, if I read that correctly, still went up 24% last year. The question comes to my mind, why? And what, if anything, can we do about it?
Well, that's the most immediate pressure point for sure.
Well, it's immediate pressure point because, you look at this massive, this ton of numbers, and you look at where's the anomaly?
Well, the anomaly is the war.
Maybe that's entirely Ukraine, but I don't know that you've seen that decline of grain that would appear in the numbers from the beginning of this year. I would think that would be something you would see later. And I would just like to understand what's happened.
Might be interesting to see what the cost of feed in the upper Midwest, Wisconsin, what did their cost of feed go up, and did it rise the same as ours?
I suspect it rose because it looks like it's a national problem on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's just looking at these anomalies, and particularly those things that have a major impact on cost that would concern me.
Well, so it is what you're saying. That's the fundamental point behind what John is saying.
Exactly.
So that we need a larger context.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would be good to look at.
So that's one question I had. The other, I heard today, this is just a question: are milk checks understandable?
No.
And
No.
if they aren't, is there something that we can or should do to make them understandable?
It's kind of breathtaking to try to understand a milk check. Yeah.
Well, again, I really realize that every major producer has a chief obscurity officer somewhere, designing to make things confusing.
So it's for sure. One of the front and center items that we've asked Dr. Wolf and Cornell is to decipher a milk check. So
well, it's not just decipher, but then say, what if anything can we do about it?
Oh, sure. Okay. Yep.
The last, I know we're short of time. I'm just kind of giving you one by one the things that have struck me from this meeting today.
The milk check deal's a big deal.
There is actually a proposal to change federal law to make the milk price more transparent. Mm-hmm. Coming out of the Midwest, there's a pretty strong push for that. So we can certainly hear about that as well.
Most of our farmers are pretty well educated today.
Mm-hmm.
And when they call, and the wife is as well, and when they call you and say, Bobby, boy, I can't understand my milk check. I don't know what's happening to our milk that's going in under base or over base. And I mean, we've all worked for somebody sometime and got a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Even myself, it always came from the corporation that I owned, but still I could understand the deducts out of that check, and you and probably even Gil could always understand, Linda could understand our net pay. But yet, if you milk cows, for some reason, you can't understand your net pay. Well, there's something wrong with that. Mm-hmm. And no, that,
they've never been able to be read. I mean, you get your Social Security is this percentage, and your everything's got a percentage, but your milk check comes and there's this thing that doesn't equal the pounds of milk that you sent times whatever they say the price is, and then there could be as much as 15 deducts listed. And it doesn't ever say, it says hauling. I'm trying to remember now because it's been a while since, but sometimes it'll say what the price of the hauling is, but you can never add it all up and say, that's what I got. It just doesn't, it doesn't work.
I haven't in a few years, but back when milk prices were really, really bad, I got some calls. The farmers get their milk check, it'd just be zeros.
Or negatives, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But anyways, the guy from Cornell then could
Yeah.
help us with that, so.
The
we'll
last
get
thing I
that.
wanted to add was there are a number of things that we said that we did in when we were here before. And the question is, did we do enough? For example, we recommended that we explore whether state agencies and schools are purchasing milk from, who's going to do that and when?
Well, the ed department controls like Vermont, it's. I
Well, are
think
we
it's-
asking, what I'm asking here is if we're making recommendations, I'm asking about the specificity of our recommendations. We say somebody ought to do something. Is that good enough? Or should we say something that has more specificity and also who? And then what the expectation is for the feedback so that we understand that somebody actually did this.
We heard a little bit about the milk business. And the milk comes, as far as I could see, from out of state because we don't have a processor that puts it in those little packages. So they take refrigerated trucks, take stuff south, and then they pick this milk up and bring it back. But we would have to do that through, I believe, the Department of Ed, who handles all the food procurement.
I'm just wondering, in terms of what we've asked it, who did we ask it to and what's our expectation and how do we follow up and how do we make sure that somebody in fact does this? And it's not just this particular, it's a number of recommendations here in which the answer we see status, no known action taken by the General Assembly. Well, the General Assembly I know hasn't met through the whole, but how do we get this done as opposed to putting it down as a just kind of a general thing? Boy, we really recommend that you do something. Like the alternatives for increasing dairy production, processing capability in the state. Well, who's going to do that?
So the specific charge to the task force is price regulation.
Mhm.
And with the COVID, talk about an anomaly, right?
Oh, yeah.
The COVID anomaly on the task force issue, we kind of went off in areas where we thought we might be able to take advantage of the influx of money that was coming. So I think what you're suggesting is that we need to circle back to some of the other considerations that we pursued in addition to price regulation and not just leave them hanging.
Well, it's if we made recommendations to somebody in the report that we did, now that this group is continuing for a period of time, I think we should circle back and review what we recommended and determine, is our recommendation clear enough, specific enough? Is it actionable? Is there an expectation that it gets done? And who follows up?
We put it in, I think when we do our final report, whenever that is, those recommendations should be, and we would request of the legislature or the whichever committee has the jurisdiction that we get this report back. I mean, we may be doing this for another year or somebody may, but at the point we make our final report, that should be in there. So there could be legislation provided somewhere along the line.
Yeah,
I think
Michael does a good job keeping us, like the Ag Committee, up to speed, but COVID did change our direction in our thoughts to some degree during last year's meetings because it was such a mess.
Price was a mess, yeah.
And, we wanted to stabilize what we had and not move and jump too far into the future until we stabilized and got beyond COVID. No, Michael spends a lot of time, and Dan, and we try to stay online somewhere within the ballpark besides doing the other stuff to accomplish our missions from like this report.
Well, I think we made good strides. We got money assistance back, even though that kind of went the other way with the DMC, but we got the attention of the farmers. And, we've talked about a few things here, but I think Senator Brock is right. We do have some things that we need to, some loose ends, and there might be other things coming. I mean, I'm assuming from these meetings, there's going to be other things that we're going to be looking at for possible legislation too going forward. So we just need to have an end date and an idea that this is what we're going to recommend, and then drop it in your lap. And Michael's.
So we had met basically twice a month, the latter part of the task force. We've certainly got a lot to cover. Is that a possibility for task force members to think about meeting, so that the next meeting would be 2 weeks from today, would be I think it's the 12th. Mike, am I, or Linda?
The 12th, yes.
So can we think about a meeting schedule similar to we followed last year, meeting Monday mornings? Does that still work for task force members?
Yeah.
And aim for every other, twice a month, basically every couple weeks, and have a 9 to 12 meeting on that schedule. And then based on your input, we can put some meeting agendas together and move forward.
You think we'll have Michael and Linda and us will have enough time with just 2 weeks to, I mean, the first couple of meetings, we're pretty well set for those.
Yeah.
But the third or fourth meeting, or the fourth and fifth meeting out, give people, people we're gonna have to have come in.
Just go forward every other Monday and just say you're going to need the national milk people in on this day, or Agrimark in on this day, and you should be able to do it a month out
We
between
stayed
the
about,
three of you.
3 weeks to a month out last time. It was
I
a bit of
think
a
it'll
scramble, but we
Well, I guess it was
Yeah.
it wasn't an election year.
well,
Oh, come on.
No, that's, if that's what the committee would like to do.
We'll let you go in politic if you need to, Senator.
Well, Monday mornings are usually,
Pretty low, huh?
any questions from members about every 2 weeks to have our next meeting? Is it the 12th?
yeah, the 12th and then the 26th.
September
and then
12th?
Rolling out from there. 12, 26, and then roll out from there. If we run into Indigenous,
Indigenous People Day,
Thank you.
somewhere around there.
Yes, the 24th.
Yeah.
Coming home. Isn't the big E on there?
No.
That
But
starts after
but we'll
Tunbridge.
be in touch about that if that's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll plan on September 12th for our next meeting, everybody,
in the 26th after that.
and
Yeah.
25th,
6.
26th.
Yeah.
So you got it on your calendars. And if you run across anything that you'd like
Yeah.
put on the agenda, get hold of, if you can't get Dan or I, maybe it'd be best to go right to Linda
Right to
or
the boss.
Michael. And so, feel free to call them if there's something you'd like put on the agenda, because we certainly don't want to miss anything.
Very,
So-
very helpful. Very good.
Anything else that anybody wants to bring up? If not, I guess we'll have a motion to adjourn, or I can just adjourn us, I guess.
So move.
Well, that's bad, more formal that way, even though I like
I
informal
know you do.
meetings, and certainly appreciate everybody being here, and thank you, Gil,
Thanks, Gil.
and Andrea for hanging in there, and we'll see you on the